we had a client in the tech space, and there was a very clear 2-week period of which we were pitching and following up, and we needed the founder to be available for interviews. Well, it just so happened to have it that during that active week of pitching, and we had some pretty notable journalists reply saying, yes, they would love to have an interview with Andrew. Nobody could find him. And it got to the point where it was really scary. Well, he had decided for some reason, I guess, in the midst of all of the launch activity, that he was overwhelmed, that he was going to go offline in the woods for, it was like 4 or 5 days or a week. Nobody could find him. Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. Renee coming at you with another smoke-filled sky day in the Okanagan. So the Okanagan is a region in interior British Columbia. The joke is called the Smokanagan. And while this is our third summer here, what I'm realizing is, yeah, I believe it now. It's been a pretty smoky summer, but we are all surviving, which is good. So anyway, while it is a Saturday morning, my husband took the boys to go downhill mountain biking today so that I had a moment to catch up. I have been behind in work for a while because of our travels. And then the other week we had to quickly leave the house. We were gone for 10 days, which was unplanned. And I'm back and recording again on Saturday. And I actually don't mind these mornings because I can ease into it. Now, if you have a podcast yourself or have ever hosted one, you understand that there is a constant need to create original content. And this is why podcasting is so important. And it is such a unique and valuable tool that skirts all the AI out there. And what I mean by that is that this is me. And I know there are some AI tools out there that can change my voice and can actually maybe sound like me, and I just have them read a script. But what I love about podcasting, and I'll lead into this with today's discussion, is it allows me to sit here, stand here, whatever I'm doing right now, I'm standing, to talk to you about some really cool insights about the world of marketing and PR for your small business, as well as to chat with some pretty cool entrepreneurs. So coming up next month in October, we have a really cool series called Master Your Marketing Mindset series. And we have experts from SEO experts, branding experts, social media experts, content marketing experts coming in to dive deep on a particular topic that will help you plan and craft your 2024 marketing calendar. And why this is important now is most small businesses don't actually start preparing for the next year, so 2024, until late December or early January. And by then, in my opinion, it's too late. You should be starting right away. Actually, when you hear this in September, you should be planning your marketing for the next year, because especially when it comes to PR, lead times for stuff is typically 3 to 6 months out. And to be a guest on some top podcasts could be 12 months out. So tune in October, because we are doing the Master Your Marketing Mindset series. And we've got some really cool guests coming out. But for today, let's talk about the top 10 reasons why PR is overwhelming for small business owners. A lot of people I talk to think PR is just for those that have a lot of money, people that have already had a reputable reputation, or have a product or service that is already well known. Well, the reality is that PR is for every small business owner at every stage of the game, because it's all about creating credibility and authority in your space and increasing your brand recognition and your brand exposure. So let's dive into why a lot of small business owners find it overwhelming and why they don't actually do it. So a lot of the things that I offer here at We Wild Women, two of the main things is a traditional PR retainer, as well as a program called the Authority Booster Intensive, which is a program I created for small business owners like you to give you a chance to access some of the world's top PR strategy. So this is an extraction of my 13 years in the industry, disseminated all down into a single day of intense strategy building for you. And so a lot of the stuff we talk about in this episode, you wouldn't have to do if you signed up for the Authority Booster Intensive. You just go to wewildwomen.com/VIP day, and all the information for that program is there. We are currently taking another 4 VIP days through the end of October. So go check it out. Without further ado, here we go. Here are the top 10 reasons why PR is overwhelming for small business owners. Number 1. You guessed it, limited resources. And what I mean by this is typically a limited budget and a limited staff 10 time constraint. So in the VIP day, I create your strategy and I teach and train your second in command, maybe your assistant or the head of marketing, how to integrate and execute on the strategy. But it still requires an additional 4 to 5 hours a week to implement. Now, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, because when we look at all this stuff, the busyness that we're doing in our business, when you think of 4 to 5 hours to actually execute on a completed strategy isn't a lot of time. So the number one thing is those limited resources. The money resource too is the reason why people think PR is expensive is because, and we'll get into this, they have a misconception of what PR actually is. So that is a further point. But limited resources is the number one reason why people don't do it, or small business owners find it extremely overwhelming. Another reason is that they give up too soon. So part of what I do with the VIP day is one thing I have my clients agree to is a 90-day commitment. And what I mean by that is upon executing on the program, they commit to 90 days of intense pitching. So this is a minimum of 10 pitches per week, inclusive of 10 follow-ups for 90 days. I know for me, I've been frustrated in the past because I've worked on campaigns of which we've ran at the same time as complementary clients' campaigns. We've written press releases. We've pitched over 100 journalists and media, and we got 0 pickup, 0 reply. It's very discouraging, and I get it. But had I given up too soon, I wouldn't have gone that extra mile. And the extra mile is reaching out to that extra 10, that extra 20, that extra 30 contacts to finally start getting some buzz. So when you do start executing on a PR strategy, commit to at least 90 days of active implementation before changing course or giving up altogether. The third thing is lack of expertise. I see a lot of people do their own PR and they get some wins. They get some success. They say, hey, listen, I don't need a publicist or a PR expert. I've already gotten some wins. I can just do this for myself. That's great. And I applaud everybody that has tried it and can do this. The problem is that most people don't know how this plays into the bigger picture. The problem is that most small business owners who get those initial wins, they lack that expertise in how to maintain those relationships and how to continue with that momentum. So they might do 30, 60, 90 days of active pitching, get some big wins and say, yep, I'm good. This campaign's done. On to the next thing. But imagine being able to keep up with that momentum. And that's what a good PR expert does, is not only do they celebrate those wins, but they leverage those wins for more wins. Number 4 is building brand awareness. So establishing that brand recognition and generating awareness among your target audience, your customers, your clients is often a significant challenge for small business owners, especially when they're competing against the big guns. I get it. So why I'm saying this is, here's a catch-22. Is their journalists, when I pitch them, they'll often look at a customer's or a client's social media account, typically personal or their business account, to see kind of the content that they're sharing and if they have a decent following. And they're more apt to saying yes to covering the feature or the story if there is some sort of brand presence and brand awareness than if not. And so most people ask, well, Renee, what do I do? And I say, at the same time that you're pitching the media, you're also building up your social presence because it is important. It's not the be all end all, but having a social footprint is so important, especially when it comes to the media. Because here's the thing, the table stakes, the de facto to getting media coverage is that you have a compelling story. Okay, that has to be the number one reason. Second to that is journalists and writers get paid to cover stories that are going to attract eyeballs. And so if your story doesn't have much juice, then it's going to be really hard for you to pitch the media. So you have to come up with that angle. And that's where I know a lot of small business owners also lack the expertise in creating that creative hook. But building up brand awareness is important and it should be consistent and constant. You should never give up on that. So number 5 is managing those media relations. So if you have a list of, say, 100 journalists or podcasts that you're pitching, it's really tough to just go out and build those relationships rather quickly with 100 people, right? Absolutely. However, when you do score a collaboration, a partnership, a speaking opportunity, you win an award, a journalist says yes, a podcast host welcomes you onto the show, it is your responsibility to not just show up when they want you there or to give them the information they need to cover you. It's your responsibility to share that. It's your responsibility to maintain that relationship, to comment, like, and share that host or that journalist content, regardless of them mentioning you. Because that is all about media relations. In the long term, it's making sure that your communication is quick. If they call you, answer the phone. If they email you asking for more information or for more details, you're articulate and you reply right away. I'll never forget this time. We had a client in the tech space that we were helping them announce their funding or their launch. I can't remember which one it was. And there was a very clear 2-week period of which we were pitching and following up, and we needed the founder to be available for interviews. Well, it just so happened to have it that during that active week of pitching, and we had some pretty notable journalists reply saying, yes, they would love to have an interview with Andrew. Nobody could find him. And it got to the point where it was really scary. Well, he had decided for some reason, I guess, in the midst of all of the launch activity that he was overwhelmed, that he was going to go offline in the woods for, it was like 4 or 5 days or a week. Nobody could find him. And that looked bad on us because we had spent so much time in building those relationships and securing exclusives that now not only was he unavailable, but he was actually, as a result, tarnished our relationships with journalists. So just make sure that you're respecting these reporters, these editors, these journalists, these podcast hosts, these TV hosts, because they are people too. And while you think they need you, the opposite is more true. So they're the gatekeepers. Respect them. Don't be ass kissers, but just respect that what they do is extremely difficult. It is very time consuming. And if they say yes to featuring you, covering you, interviewing you, make sure you're available. Okay, you wild thing, you can throw out that scruffy media pitch now. No more poring over bland pitches, wasting countless hours trying to piece your story together, wondering where to send it and who will even care. You know that landing media coverage is the number one way to claim your seat at the table, and you're savvy enough to know it's time to bring in an expert. That's why we've created a system to take the guessing game of PR off your plate. One day, one investment, all the value. Get your PR strategy in hand sooner with our VIP days. It's strategy over breakfast and PR ready by dinner. Picture this. A world-class PR strategy created for your business by an award-winning publicist with 12 plus years of industry experience, and not just an upgraded version of a dull media kit, but a custom plan that's strategically crafted to capture the attention of journalists and influencers. No fill-in-the-blank, bare-bone type templates. Just a detailed roadmap to move your brand forward without the agency price. And this isn't a course. Here's exactly what you'll walk away with. All of this custom media kit, pitch angles for podcast, print, and TV, curated podcast list of over 50 vetted shows, one press release, confidence to pitch at your own pace, custom training videos to show you the way, plus a month of follow-up support with me. If you want in to this amazing VIP day, simply go to wewildwomen.com/VIP day. to either fill in the application if you're ready to do it or schedule a call if you want more. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP day. So the next thing is crafting a consistent message. A lot of people suck at this. They suck at that consistency. So developing a message for your compelling brand message is tough. Most people don't know how to effectively communicate their unique value proposition while also staying true to their brand across all the different channels, from PR to content marketing to a website to social media. It is really difficult. And actually, I'm speaking in a summit in October about artificial intelligence and how that plays into the role of PR. And one of the components of the talk is talking about how AI can help you craft that messaging. So if you're interested in that, then follow me on social media on Instagram, Renee_Warren. I'll be announcing that summit coming up in September for the date in October. So the next thing that overwhelms small business owners is crisis management. Now, admittedly, I am not a crisis PR expert. So the difference is that there's PR, which is kind of like you create, craft, and control the message. Crisis PR is typically when there's an issue and you have to submit a press release or you have to get in front of the media to talk about what's going on. Like, I think of extreme crisis PR is when, for instance, like BP had an oil spill. How are they going to show up? What words are they going to use and say so that their reputation isn't further damaged and they can start the reparation from that moment on? So that's what crisis management is the proper way of doing it is where you know you're wrong, working with a professional to admit the error and to articulate how you are going to fix it and never let it happen in the future. Because generally that's what people want to do. People want to see you admit your mistake. They want to see how you're going to fix it, and they want to know how you're going to avoid that issue going forward. The next thing is measuring PR success. This is difficult, but it's not. There are some expensive platforms out there that can give you some idea of how to measure this, but really it comes down to impressions. Most publicists, most people in the industry can't and shouldn't ever say that PR has a direct correlation to sales. When I work with clients, one of the first questions I ask them is their business goal and why they think PR is a good fit to achieve that goal. Now, the ones that understand the industry won't start out by saying their revenue goal. They'll start out by saying how they want to increase brand awareness, get more exposure, position themselves as the authority in the space, develop their credibility, get on more speaking stages, get that brand recognition. I think I already said that. But they won't say firstly that it's directly related to sales because that would be incorrect. Now, it should correlate to sales. So for instance, if you put a press release out about some new program you're launching or something like that, and you have some PR campaign around it, it should indirectly lead to sales, 100%. However, unlike online advertising, you don't know the clicks and the traffic. You correlate the traffic to a press release or an announcement or some PR campaign. But sometimes it's really hard to really articulate that PR success to sales and revenue targets. So don't start out that way. The next up is content creation. One of the most important things in being successful in PR is being a creative writer. There are tools, thank you to AI and ChatGPT and all these other incredible artificial intelligence tools out. There are ways to make this part of the job easier. However, it always requires a human element. I've used ChatGPT to write press releases, which I was so dumbfounded by the results because it wrote something better than I could have written. It would have taken me 2 days to write it, and it wrote it in like 2 seconds. And why this is important is because you can use the right prompts to input into ChatGPT to draft out a press release of which then you take and you actually, I don't want to say rewrite completely, but you add the customization and the personal element to it. You fact check, you do the research, and then you do the grammar, spelling, and punctuation edits. But it is super helpful. However, you still need to be a creative content machine because PR is really 3 things. It's traditional PR, it is social media, and it is content marketing. To be successful using these platforms, they all have to kind of work together. That's why messaging needs to be consistent and the content creation needs to be consistent across all channels. The 9th thing that overwhelms small business owners is keeping up with trends. So staying up to date with the ever-evolving PR landscape, which includes media consumption habits, social media platforms, what's new, what's coming out, like threads and all this stuff. I remember years ago when Clubhouse was the thing, and I was like, everyone get on Clubhouse. And I've made some incredible connections there. But I was only on there for maybe 3 or 4 months, and then it just kind of faded on me. And to say that is PR too, but like what trends are important and how long are these trends? What's that fad that I got to get on now? This could include software. It could include approaches. For instance, I don't want to say this is a trend. It was just the result of the change of the economy, but a lot of the top publications, they unfortunately laid off a lot of staff writers. And I've alluded to this before in other shows, in other episodes, but that means that these staff writers now are freelance writers, which means that they now write for multiple publications and they have maybe lost touch with some editors that they once worked for, and their lives have shifted. These journalists' lives have changed, and now how they approach media is different, and now how we find them is different. And so a big trend now is finding these journalists that have Substacks and subscribing to their Substacks to get access to their queries, right? So keeping up with trends is another thing because it's a full-time job in essence if you want to leverage PR to get the most impact. Now, the last things, number 10, is how to balance PR with other responsibilities. And this is what happens almost all the time. And I see this because I look at majority of my clients that have tried to execute this themselves or have implemented the Authority Booster Intensive strategy. And they're good, they're solid for a few months, and then they start getting busy doing other things. And the biggest mistake I see is people giving up too soon, right? Because they have to balance this with other things. They don't prioritize this because it's a long tail approach. It's a long-term strategy. PR is a marathon. It's not a sprint. The more you do it over the long term, the more you'll get out of it. Just like working out, just like eating well, just like sleep and water. The more you do it, the more you'll get from it. So the clients that I've worked with that to this day, 6 months, 12 months later, that are still executing on their strategy, they are still text messaging me. They're still sending me emails and Voxers celebrating their wins. Oh my gosh, I got on this podcast. Renee, I got on this blog, a full interview, and it has been huge. I got so much traffic and 5 new clients because of it. Now, had they given up months ago, this wouldn't have happened, but they kept at it. What they did was they integrated this PR strategy into their weekly marketing initiatives. So if I said, oh, you know what? Forget about social media for the next 3 weeks. We're too busy doing something else. We won't post or share anything, even though I know we get leads and customers from social, but we're so busy doing other things. We're just not going to do it right now. See what happens there? And so what you have to do is you have to prioritize the things you know that are working, and one of which is balancing PR with other responsibilities and not giving up on it, even though it might not look like it's working today. Over the long term, if you effectively implement a strategy of which I create for you on your VIP day, it will work. I promise you that. So these are some common reasons why small business owners find it overwhelming. If anything here relates to your life, if you ever tried PR, you have questions about it and you kind of need some help kind of putting you in the right direction, I encourage you to DM me on Instagram, Renee_Warren, and I'd be happy to jump in and help you to really understand the landscape or maybe to point out what you're doing wrong. Just a reminder, the marketing series is coming out in October, and I have some really cool women that are going to show up and are just going to knock your socks off. I also would love to hear from you and the methods that you've used over the course of the last year with PR or any sort of marketing for your business that has worked for you. You can email me info@wewildwomen.com or hit me up on Instagram, Renee_Warren. Until next time, ladies, peace out. So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. and leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time. The best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.